this because we'll try to make legal talk can be reached by some friends in other countries as well. I don't know because my friends told me that he want to join this evening, but we'll see. Thank you very much. How are you guys doing? I hope
Good.
we are all in good health in this very challenging time because the COVID-19 pandemic. Uh, Thank you very much for accepting my invitations for speaking this evening for the theme of COVID-19 and how it impacts the legal professions. I choose you guys because to make a different point of view from the lawyering, from the legal researcher in public advocacy, and also Bang Andrew from in-house counsel, as uh, Topper has told me. And this is, I think, a very interesting issue. I watched in YouTube for some community and faculty of law, especially those in the United States, has discussed about this issue very intense. And I think from a point of view that you guys, young lawyer, can give more perspective on the issue. For your informations, Legal Talk is a initiative. It's a weekly legal bulletin or magazine. We publish once in 2 weeks. Publish all articles, legal articles from lawyer from any background and professions, but they should be sarjana hukum and from any perspective. But we have also feature to publish one article in one editions from to discuss the same thing, the same issue, but from another major, uh, from another degree. But the most important thing that once again, it's not here in WebEx, but after we do this webinar, we will publish these discussions through our YouTube channel. It will be 1.5 hour to discuss about the theme, and I will give you guys. I think just speak freely about everything because, as you may know also, and you want to, you may not to uh, discuss this through your um, own affiliations or institutions or your office. Just make a general statements to make sure that our discussions today would not give any, I think, legal impact to everyone, to everybody, or to every institutions. Um, yes, for audience, we have 3 speakers here today. First is Dita, my friends from Unpar as well. Dita is a corporate lawyer now in a prominent, I think, and well-established law firm in Jakarta. And second, Lintang, also my friends from Unpar, uh, who's still work in her passion on legal advocacy, public advocacy, research on the issue. Now, Lintang joined, I think, Elsam, yeah, Elsam.
Yes,
And
awesome.
third, we have Bang Andrew Renaldy. Now he is working as an in-house counsel in a big company as well. And Andrew was also a corporate lawyer prior to be an in-house counsel. Okay, today, this evening, we will discuss about COVID-19 and how it impacts legal professions. I expect you guys to speak and to share about your experience. This is a casual discussions, I think. Just sharing about things that we have to know regards to your own respective professions right now, your employment right now, about the new normal caused by this pandemic. As we know, there are so many sectors has impacted by this COVID-19, and it also impacted the legal sectors, as you may know. There are so many rapid changes as many expertise, especially those living in the United States, saying that it is starting, that we are started to enter the new normal world. And I think, yes, indeed, we are entering a new normal. And how this new normal world, for whatever it means, in your experiences. So the first one would be, could you please discuss, share with us about what things change in your professions, in your daily working, and like for example, do you guys working today? Are you working work from home and twice, 2 days a week, or whatever? Just share about it for the first stage of this webinar. I will start to Dita, and then Lintang can directly discuss the same thing, the same issue after Dita, and then continue move to Bang Andrew. I think it's clear. Dita, I over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chad, for the introduction. Hello, Lintang, Bang Andrew, fellow Unpar. So all of us are actually from Unpar, Chad. Yeah, so I think Richard has raised the point. Okay, so I think, is my voice breaking?
Your voice echoing.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Is my voice breaking? Is it still echoing?
That's good.
No, it's okay now.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I would start with reiterating what Richard has said. So being a lawyer, putting disclaimers here and there. So actually what we'll be saying are our personal views and does not represent our institution in any way. First things first, I think for law firms, it's quite interesting, yeah. Because I have experienced, I have actually received many questions asking on why do lawyers spend so much hours at work, and even sometimes stay overnight at work.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from workload and deadlines, tight deadlines imposed by not only commercial decisions but also regulations, I think one of the responses usually provided by lawyers is the fact that the work of a lawyer is confidential in nature, and thus sometimes it prevents lawyers from taking works home from the office, and that's why lawyers has to stay at the office to complete the works. And I think before the implementation of large scale restriction policies by the government, law firms have been at pros and cons on whether or not it is possible for law firms to apply work from home policies because of, among other things, the confidentiality nature of the work. But it appears that at the moment, most law firms in Jakarta, at least, have been implementing the work from home policies, including the institution where I work, actually. So it seems like it's not impossible for lawyers or for advocates to bring work to home. I think it's because of the changes that are quite rapid. Things that were seen as traditional means of working may not be applicable due to the rapid changes. That's one thing. I think it's interesting because we can see that even though the works of lawyers are deemed confidential in nature, so apparently it's not impossible for lawyers to working from home, to working remotely instead of having physical meetings, physical visitations. Works can be done online. That's one thing. And further, to see how the coronavirus disease 19 or COVID-19 impact the works of the lawyering works, I think it is important to first understand that there are different types of lawyers depending on the practice groups, which include I think Richard and Bang Andrew is familiar with this fact as well. The big practice groups would include corporate and commercial, and then litigation and dispute settlement, as well as banking and finance. There are other groups as well, more specific groups such as intellectual property or business competition, for instance. But these three groups, I think, are we can say that we are looking at these three groups, and the COVID-19. We can say that it affects each of the groups differently. From corporate and commercial, we can see that many projects and many transactions are postponed. Not only because of commercial decisions, but also because of government policies, because the government decided to allocate the fundings initially budgeted for the projects to be used to mitigate the COVID-19 outbreak. From litigation and dispute settlement, for instance, we may be seeing, or we may be looking at potential bankruptcy and delay of payment cases, as well as employment and manpower related issues. I think in banking and finance, I think I don't claim expertise in in the field, but I think it may also be affected because postponement of projects and postponement of transactions might affect the funding scheme, which had been in place prior to the outbreak. So I think in general, other impacts would be, I think, more technicalities. Because not only private sector applying work from home policies, but also governmental institutions also apply work from home policies. So it might be challenging to be liaising with governmental agencies at this stage. And for instance, also in litigation and dispute settlement, the Supreme Court has issued circular letter which encourage staffs of courts to be working from home. Yeah. So those I think are the general impacts that affect the methods or the means of working of lawyers from traditional means of working, such as physical visitation, physical meetings, to become means of working remotely.
Thank you, Dad. Just wondering, uh, you still meet the client directly right now in this pandemic situation?
It will not be encouraged. I mean, I haven't, me personally, I haven't, but sometimes it is inevitable because for instance, the despite the fact that the Supreme Court has issued a circular letter encouraging staffs of courts to working from home, but not actually court not it's actually not all courts have been implementing the work from home policies, because it's the circular letter is not
For
really binding towards them. It's only a form of encouragement for them to work from home policy. So some courts still require parties in dispute to come in person, to be present before the court for court hearings. So that's I think the kind of example whereby remote meetings or online meetings is not possible or inevitable.
uh, we know that after the local government took the PSBB
Mm.
decisions, I think 11 sectors are excluded from the regulations. Is law firm and or lawyering is included to the PSBB exception or not?
From a reading of the policy, actually, this I think it's still being discussed, but I think from reading of the policy, law firms is not of the top priority or of the top. It's not an essential work uh, which would require the personnel of law firms to visit to physically visit the office. But I think it's being visited by many management of law firms on how to interpret the policy.
Oh, so because it means if you meet the client directly for to some places, maybe it means you break the regulations. It is it true?
For meeting clients, yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think it's not. I personally think it's not a black and white situation, chat. I think, for instance, even the courts still require lawyers to be present in person for court hearings. But I think if the degree of essence of the meeting is not important, I mean, it's just it which can be which meeting in person. I think it will be the last option if any other means fail. If any other means is not possible.
Okay. Before going too far about how you come up with all the challenges that you have been discussed, I will move to Lintang on her working as a legal researcher, public advocacy, public advocate, whatever. Please tell us and
Yeah.
share your experience in this COVID pandemic.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Maybe I'll start with introducing my organizations because I hope that my connection is stable because I'm using tethering.
It's stable.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'll introduce some brief about my organization. So ALSAM is basically human rights organization in Indonesia. It's since 1993 and it's based in Jakarta. So our main activity, actually, we conducting research about the human rights based approach, and then we do policy advocacy. So based on our research, we will do advocacy, like giving the recommendations to the government and also the multi-stakeholders. And our current issue is about the business and human rights. How does the private sector or government comply with human rights principles during their activities? And my main focus personally, it's about the digital rights, about like freedom of expression, online freedom of expression, and also the right to privacy, and about the cyber security. If you heard about Tokopedia data breach, it's a part of our issues as well, how the human rights approach to those issues. And yeah, I get that's my organization's daily activities. And about the COVID-19 pandemic, I guess I would say that probably I have a privilege, because my organization have been it's been like 6 weeks. We are apply work from home situations, and some of our staffs as well, because they're living away from their family, like and yeah, like living in kos-kosan. For those who live like a walking distance from the office, uh, office will provide like a healthy food in order to uh, the healthy uh, the healthiest situations for the staffs, and also the safety. I guess it's a privilege because, yeah, again, we are human rights organization, so we should apply the safety of our staffs, I guess. Yeah, but apart from that, the staff who lives like around Jabodetabek, like Bekasi or Depok, they should working remotely from the home. And I guess about the working or the challenge during these situations related my job, it's about how I guess there are two activities that I wanna two issues that I wanna address. Like first about the research process, like because my activities is usually research, even though we write things. Yeah, if the process of the research it's already writings like desk studies, we uh, working from home, it's actually a dream for all research, so we don't have to go to the office like in the morning, because we can like doing our work in the bed, like. But we have some challenge in the process of interviewing. Like for example, some of my so this year I have a research. We have to conduct some research about the privacy impact of in the health services, data health data. How does the impact to our privacy? And again, because of pandemic, I guess the priority of the ministry or the government that we should interview for our research will focus on the COVID-19 handling. So yeah, we have to like creative to approach them in order to get the statement from them or discuss with them. But I think, yeah, the new normal is like, I guess in this 6 week I've been like finishing my research. It's actually joint research with organizations in UK. It's about the health reproductive and its relation to the right to privacy, health reproductive, like a technology that being used for a woman or access to reproductive health. And yeah, it's the research process. It's in during the quarantine times, like the whole, like the first the meeting and the interviewing, and luckily because all of our resource persons is available and can access the internet, and it's also have a big relations with what Tita have been said earlier about the technical things that I guess the government also still figuring out this mechanism. Like for example, because one of my activity is policy advocacy, so we usually get the invitations from the legislative to join the public hearings about the discussions of the bill. Like one of the issues that we have right now about the discussion about data protection bill, that right now the position of the bill is in the first commission atau komisi 1 in legislative, and I guess the legislative itself have no stable or firm mechanism in order to conduct some like a discussions or meetings, or so basically they like a idle. I guess there are no like activities in commission one or legislative, and it's really have a big impact to our works. So we have to change our some activities that we have been designed in this earlier in the beginning of the year, and we have to change to another activities that still have a same spirits or goals. And also, yeah, because of the pandemic situations, we have to adjust some issues. Like for example, we should be have a activity to do monitoring how the what we call it local election. Yeah. So how actually so we in Alsam we should be have a monitoring activity about the micro targeting campaign being used in local election, like the campaign that using social media and advertising in social media, how that being used in local election. But again, because the government haven't confirmed yet about the time of local election during this pandemic, so we have to postpone that activities, and we have to revise it, and we change the issues that relate to this situation, and we change to so we still do the monitoring, but our focus is about how the government use COVID-19 applications and how it is in its impact to our rights or citizens' rights. So yeah, I guess the things that we have to push, I mean, questioning as a legal, as a people who deal with legal things and legal profession, it's what is actually the mechanism that government use. Like for example, that Dita mentioned about the court process and about the legislative process, and I think it's still vague, and there are no confirmed mechanisms, so it have impact to us. And one thing that I want to share as well or mention, it's about people. I think so many friends of us like working in private sector or companies, and they in the position to take policies in their internal institutions. So, and how I think it's also good to discuss about how actually their policies in their internal and For example, for those who working as a monitoring and evaluation, or I forget the name, but yeah, who HR. So how does their policies, internal policies, comply with some regulations? I guess it's also a great topic to be discussed this evening. I guess that's
Yeah,
all.
thank you. My first, just quick questions about is you are also working on advocating people, is it right?
Yeah, but in Alsam we don't take any like a individual case. Like it's quite different with legal aid, Jakarta legal aid or Bandung legal aid. So in terms of the legal process, my it's only like a specific case that related with the human rights issue. Like the latest case that we involved, it's about the internet shutdown in Papua. So some of our lawyers is become a public lawyers to defend the policies that ICT ministry have been taken, and also the implications. And yeah, for my divisions, we just drafting the amicus curiae. So we send amicus curiae and amicus curiae to the court about this decision. And it's and yeah, again, it's very challenging because we don't give any clear information about the court process during this pandemic.
Thank you, Tang. We'll go deeper on what you're working on. But before continue to Bang Andrew, I will let you guys know to all the audience here. You can write down your opinion or your questions to the speakers on the chat room. You are really to ask everything to them. I think I almost know all of you here from Cimbeluit. And now we continue to Bang Andrew. The floor is yours, Bang.
Okay, so thank you for the time, Richard, and all of you. So first of all, I'm working from home. So I'm. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Andrew.
You are well known.
Don't be like this is a public forum, Richard. So I'm Andrew. I'm a senior lawyer at a telecommunication company in Indonesia. So I think I can disclose the name in here. It's XL Axiata TBK. So my role in the company is I am a part of the contract management team. So the legal team in my company is divided into three teams. The first one is the litigation team. The second one is the corporate advisory team and compliance. And the third one is the contract management team. So what I do in the company is basically preparing end-to-end commercial contract and do some commercial dispute matters. As long as it does not enter into the court, it's on our team. So that's a little background of myself. So during this working from home period, so my company, well, in my opinion, has taken quite an extreme measures even prior to the PSBB policy. So we are talking about even when before the working from home period, you cannot enter my company's building without a valid healthy certificate from a doctor or from a well-known hospital. And then we also provide a doctor in the lobby just to make sure they can check you. Are you healthy or not? And you have to, before entering the office, you have to make a statement whether you have any contact with people coming from China or other countries that was infected heavily with the COVID-19. So it was the first phase of the situation in my company, and then it gets they did something that they call as a business continuity and disaster recovery program. This BCDR plan is divided into 3 phases. The first phase is we still working at the office now, but we divide all of the employee into 4 groups. Let's say I'm on group 1, Richard on group 2, Benedicta 3, and Lintang 4. If we divide it into several, if we are from different groups, we cannot meet each other in the office. Even we cannot meet each other outside the office too. This is the phase 1 of the BCDR plan. This is when before everybody applying the working from home policy. And then the second one is right now, where everybody is working from home. The office, there is no one in the office except for the BOD and the skeleton team. The skeleton team is the team that needs to be there to make sure the company runs smoothly. It is the network team and the IT team. And then the third phase that we have simulated for the third phase, but we hope that we will never implement this phase. The third phase is the total lockdown of Jakarta. So in this phase, we prepare a plan that we move all of our operational needs and our headquarters to another city within Java Island. This is the third phase, and we hope that we will never implement it. So that is the situation in my company. And then, luckily for us, legal division in the company, we did not affect the COVID-19 did not affect our work adversely, because basically everything that we do in the company, we have already do it online. So the main thing that you need to have for working remotely, the working from home period, is you can do anything on your own. So you don't need hard copies document. You don't need to meet anybody. It's all already accommodated in this situation, because we do correspondence, we do advisory from email, we draft everything from our laptop. So what happened to me, what's happening to our team, there's nothing very bad for us, because we already this is our way of working. We do it everything online. We don't even retain hard copies document at our desk. It was handled by another team, and those team, the archive team, the document team, they already put all of the hard copy documents online on the cloud. So we don't need to check again for hard copies of the document. The challenge is we have to digitalize everything in the process of contract making, which is the biggest challenge is to do the digital signature. And then the second one, which I think our compliance team is exploring, is to do an electronic GMS. I think that is for now, Richard.
Thank you, Bang. I just confused what questions should be asked for you, because so complex. But anyway, this is the questions for the 3 speakers. You have mentioned about all the challenges, all the rapid changes caused by the pandemic. We are working habit. My questions is, what things you see as a positive one, and what the most challenging one of the COVID-19? So you may mention about the positive impact of the COVID, quote unquote, but as well as the most challenging one because the COVID-19 to your jobs. Dita, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chad. quote-unquote positive side of coronavirus disease 19. One of the positive sides is the fact that I was able to celebrate my birthday at home at noon with my family. So yeah, it's a one lifetime. It's a one-time experience. It's an experience of a lifetime actually to be able to reconnect with your family members 24/7 actually. I think that's one thing. I mean, I'm talking. I said it as gratefully. I mean, as I am amongst the least impacted by the virus, by the pandemic. I understand that many people are not as quote unquote as lucky, especially those working in certain sectors of industry such as retail industries, restaurants, aviation, hotel industries, and so on and so forth. The other positive thing, I think, I've mentioned it actually. We got the opportunity to explore. Law firms got the opportunity to explore on the extent possible on how to work. Basically, it was never. I think it was never the plan for lawyers to be able to work remotely, including online hearings. Actually, some courts implement the means of online hearings through certain software facilities, and so basically, as I've mentioned, there are three big practice groups, if I may say: corporate commercial, litigation, and dispute resolution, banking finance. These three actually, there have been efforts by the government to ensure or to provide simplified and fast procedure on for instance in corporate and commercial. OSS system has been introduced. It is aimed as an effort to simplify and to ensure fast issuance of business licenses. Now with the pandemic, we understand the importance of such a system, such an online system. A similar system is also introduced in litigation and dispute resolution, as e-court has been is a known concept now. Now with the existence of the outbreak resulting in the large-scale restrictions policies, resulting in work from home policies, it is encouraged for parties disputing to actually optimize the use of e-courts. And in banking and finance, I think recently, in 2019, it was introduced the system of online registration for mortgage, if I'm not mistaken, for hak tanggungan. So I think with this current situation, we are looking at it seems like kita dipaksa to optimize the use of such online or such systems provided by the government. I think it's not bad. It's not bad at all actually. From now on, I think maybe from after the pandemic, we will not need any business trips anymore because hearings are conducted online. Court documents are submitted through e-court systems, and so on and so forth. That's the second thing. The third thing, I think lawyers may see this as an opportunity to actually engage in more various sectors of business. For instance, the past couple years, I think business actors and investors found the industry of financial technology as an appealing industry. Now in 2020, we may be looking at more various industries. For instance, I think it is one of the emerging industries would be the healthcare industries. Now that with the outbreak, many realizes the importance of proper and good healthcare facilities, healthcare products, and healthcare equipments. It might be the case that business actors and investors will be looking at new businesses, giving lawyers more opportunities to assist or to provide legal services with regard to those. But laws and regulations will also need to with the rapid changes of the current situation, the laws and regulations should also be able to accommodate such changes, because I think healthcare regulations, there are many industries, many industries that has not been accommodated by the current regulations. For instance, like telemedicine now, which may be the it business in 2020. I don't know, but I think it's an opportunity for lawyers as well.
Thank you, Dit. I agree. I think lawyer have also changed about after this pandemic, COVID pandemic. But I agree, your physical presence to your client is also very important and cannot be changed by any virtual meetings. And that's why the meaning of lawyering, I think. My questions, it's not related to it. In general view, it's not your organizations or affiliations or your office. Is there any decreasing number of getting clients? Because your client may be decreasing.
Frankly speaking, especially in the corporate commercial, because investors and business actors tend to be at wait and see stage, right? And I think there has been many publications on how global law firms react to this. Many has, I'm talking generally, many has tried to cut unnecessary fees to ensure that the business of law firm can continue, can be sustainable. But I mean, generally speaking, I agree that it's inevitable. I think law firms are not in the front line. It's not an industry which is in the front line being affected by the virus. There are other industries that are in the front line, such as what I mentioned: aviation, hotels, retails. But the thing is, they are our clients. So if they're affected, we are affected. Right?
Yeah. Thank you, Tang. I will go to Bang Andrew Renaldy first, and then I go to Lintang. Bang, there are any positive impacts you can see from the COVID pandemic, and what the most challenging or the negative one caused by the pandemic to your jobs? Like,
okay, the positive one will obviously when we are working from home, we can get more time with our family. For instance, there will be no travel time between home and office, so I can spend more time with my wife and my boy. So it is a really positive thing, because I'm quite lucky to be in a company that does not affected greatly with the COVID-19 situation, and uh, instead it is one of the sectors that have to be always running to make sure there will be no massive to ensure there are no uprising in the society, just to make sure the telecommunication always running. So basically the positive thing is you can spend more time with your family, and then I heard some people will do some workouts and then getting a healthy lifestyle, things like that, and everything else that you already heard, everything in the news or social media. Now, the biggest challenge is, as I mentioned it earlier, that we have to digitalize some of the we have to digitalize all of our works. So previously, I mentioned that almost all of our works as a as an in-house counsel already digitalized, except for signing the documents and then sending it over to the counterparty to be signed also. So this is the part when the digital signing came in. So what we do as an in-house counsel is trying to explain to the business person and people at the company, and this is actually really hard to make sure that a digital sign, a digital e-signature is not something, an image that you put into a Microsoft Word document. No, it is not something like that. And it is maybe quite funny, but it actually happens in the company. We have to explain it over and over again that about digital certificate, this and that, this e-signature provider, and these are the requirements of a digital signature, and it doesn't stop there. When the problem when you are using a digital, when the problem when using e-signing, you have to also make sure that the other party is also using a digital signature. This is just to make sure that everything runs smoothly, because if you use a digital signature, it will produce a PDF document with embedded with a digital certificate in it. Now, if the other party prints the document, you will lose the digital certificate in the document. So as an in-house counsel, we have to always ask the business unit, hey, are the counterparty you will using digital signature or not? Now, this is something that it seems easy, but imagine and multiply it by 100 each day, that you have to do it every day and you have to explain it over and over again. This is the challenge that we are facing, apart from the explaining how to use the platform to your BOD, because they are, they're older generation from us. So it's quite a challenge to explain to them. I think
So
that
you
is
are not a part of the older generations, right?
What?
You are not a part of the older. No.
No.
This may be the most challenging one, but it is the negative one or not? To have a new habit on e-signing, for example.
No, I think it's not something negative, because once they understand, the person that have to do the digital signing understand how to do it and how to correctly do it, it make things very fast. Previously, it may took us around 1 to 2 weeks to make sure that our directors sign the document, and then to ensure that the document is signed by the other party. It may take 1 to 2 weeks, but today, when we are using digital signing, it actually happens. I send the digital signature request to my director or on maybe 9 in the morning, and then we can also have it signed by the other party on 11. It only takes 2 hours to make sure that the document is signed by both parties. I think this is a very positive impact, because previously we already use digital signing, but only for certain transaction that we do with overseas partner. But now we have to do it with every partner, whether local or international partner. And if we done it correctly, it will make things very fast.
Yeah. I think it is also the sign that we are entering a new normal. I think also this is a digitalized world as well. E-signing would be as a common habit, I think, in many field of work, I think. So I'll move to Lintang. It is also related to, we have been discussed about the e-signing, e-signature. I will go through the data privacy. As you also, I think you have written in Kompas, am I right? And the first thing is, in this challenging time, you may face so many cases, public cases. It may be about hoaxes, as the hoaxes spreading, and the human rights issue, the migrants worker issue, and so on and so forth, as the impact of the coronavirus. And you, I think, will work much harder on this on these several issues. So could you see a positive impact that maybe can be beneficial for you to all the rapid changes impacted by the caused by the coronavirus, the COVID-19? And the same questions, what is the most challenging as well as the negative one?
Okay. Probably I want to add that Bang Andrew said earlier about the digital signs, because I saw some memes in Twitter about what is the important things to change the digital literation. It's not about like something cool, but it's pandemic that push people to start entering digital eras. And yeah, it's very true that we actually have the regulations about the certifications of electronic signs like almost 12 years in ITE law, because we always familiar about the UITE, or information and electronic transactions, only the problematic ones like the defamation and also the pornographic. Yeah, but it's supposed to be the things that Bang Andrew mentions. It's basically about the electronic transaction, not about those criminalizations. That's why the civil society always like a buzz in the social media that we have to discard the articles about the criminalizations, and it's supposed to be something that issues that's addressed in ITE law. So, but about the positive things, it's probably sounds cheesy, but we familiar with the issues in as a Jakarta people that usually commute from Jakarta to remote area near Jakarta, or like suburban citizen that should face like hours in order to go to the office. And I guess it's very have a positive impact, especially for me who live in Bekasi and have to commute to Jakarta every day. And it's I think I eventually and surprisingly can cope with these situations. But and I hope that some of people also have some privilege as me. And it shows that the office is not really something that obligate, because we can now do work remotely right now. But the challenge is, I think it's very relevant that my organizations also speak about the cyber of security. It's cyber security. It's actually not only criminalize bad activities in online, but also how to ensure that we have we have to ensure the network that we use to communicate or interact is secure. Like, for example, if Benedicta said about the e-court, it should be the cyber security have to ensure that videos that you watch and you heard, it's from the court. It's not something that people interface, and it's something that hijack or something like that. So basically, the cybersecurity is, and if we take to the broader things about the security as a policies, it should be strategic that government and also multi-stakeholder, for example, the private company that also provide the public services, like Bang Andrew company, they have to ensure the security of the connections, and it's also have to because yeah, we can see that this pandemic situation show us clearly about the inequality, that not all people have a same change for us to access the better connections. And I guess the policies or the policy makers during this pandemic should address this issue as well about the connections and the security, and also the internet as a rights, because clearly during this pandemic the daily activities is moved to digital. And yeah, I know it sounds very I don't know, utopist or something like that, but that's what my organizations or organizations like us push and see how the internet should be human rights, because it's a medium or platform to everybody access their information, even though the problem itself about that Richard mentioned about how we control the hoax and also the scam or something like that, and yeah, it's a very it should have a multi-stakeholder approach. It's not only like we cannot only give those mechanism or only for a legal enforcer, but also we have to give those responsibility table to the digital platform as well. How they create this ecosystem is more safe, especially for kids. Like you may have, I guess, those who have kids right now, they also do school from home, and they using Zoom, and you may all heard about the Zoom bombing or data breach from Zoom, that the data is from the children's data, which is very sensitive because they are still minor groups, part of the minor groups. And I guess that's the things legal profession also take a look how we respond to the, especially during this especially about the digital security and also the policy to protect our rights. I think that's for me, and I'm
Thank you,
open
Tan.
to be discussed.
Thank you for reiterating that there are so many data breaches in Zoom. So that's why we use WebEx. And my another questions, this is related to that we have been discussed about, I think like Bang Andrew in-house counsels in a company working as a lawyer there and or legal officers there. You, Lintang, working as a legal researchers, doing some research on legal issues, and Dita in lawyering. Would you give us a list of like one or two about what really will change after the COVID-19 pandemic in your professions? I mean, after now it has been changed, and after the COVID-19 has been ended, it will not be changed to the conventional one, but the new one that we are now experiencing. You may list one or two things that really changed to your professions after the COVID-19. Bang Andrew, you may have the floor.
Okay, I can only think of one thing right now. So I think after the COVID-19 situation, the one thing that will happen to our legal professions is the how we conduct our profession in terms of our physical needs to be there in a working situation. So I think we are talking about when the situation of working from home is over, and then we can resume our work again in our own office, where we can do commuting again to the office. But then the things that will change is that uh, about how we will conduct doing the everyday works. Or what I meant is that maybe it's like the phase one of the BCDR that I have mentioned earlier. We can still go to the office, but then there are strict policy that apply to our office that we have all to obey. So basically, for example, like what I have mentioned earlier, that there will be grouping of employees in the office, and then when the groupings is like when you cannot meet other people from different group. So I think that will be applied, something like that. Some strict policy on physical distancing will still apply, because I believe even though that the COVID-19 situation, working from home is over, I believe that the COVID-19 virus is still lingering out there, and then we have to keep and stay aware of that virus, and to note also that the virus is also still deadly, and we have to do preventive measures for our working environment. So basically, there will be a strict policy on physical distancing in your office. I think that's what I can think of right now, because the main idea to avoid COVID-19 is to do physical distancing. That is why we are having all this uh, WebEx meeting. We all have video conference, and we do everything from home. I think that's it.
Thank you, Bang. You may add something, Dit?
Yeah, my understanding is what will change permanently instead of temporarily. I mean permanently, even after uh, the virus is gone entirely. I mean, I think, well, I agree with Bang Andrew. Actually, the method of working will be the main change resulting from the current outbreak. Uh, but I think it's more important for lawyers and law firms, actually, especially those which are still working in unconventional means of working, traditional means of working, to fully understand that it is not impossible to maintain confidentiality while working remotely, while working using software facilities, instead of being at work overnight, or staying at work for a whole week, simply because you cannot bring the work home due to confidentiality issues. So I think it's more like, hopefully after this, lawyers can go home at 5, actually, because the works can be taken home without the fear of having the confidentiality breach. But I think, of course, the measures to ensure that that we still maintain confidentiality should be put in place, such as maybe to accommodate, to put in place a software facility instead of using certain facilities which is well known as which is well known with its possibility of having data leakage. And the other means would be educating, quote unquote, the personnel that the works brought home will still need to remain confidential. I think that's the most important thing. And maybe after this, lawyers will try to discover or to explore possibilities of mastering not only certain specific legal field to ensure that regardless of uh, regardless of any possible force majeure, quote unquote, situation such as pandemic, you can still maintain having works and clients.
Thank you, Dit. Move to Lintang.
Yeah, I think I want to highlight two things. The first about the technical things that we've been discussed from the first, the beginning of our discussions. I guess the issues that government or policymakers have to take an action as soon as possible is about how the legality of law process, or for example, the court process, e-court process, how the legality of that process. Because in my case, for example, when we control or about the legislative process, legislative or Congress process, particularly in voting mechanism, online voting mechanism, it's technically speaking, we based on our current regulations or law, we don't have any like those kind articles that mention the e-voting works, e-voting in terms of the establish a bill. It's not something that we have in our current regulation, and how it's still keep those processes transparent or something like that. And the second things, it's again about the privacy issues. I guess it's also the things that lawyers should take a look, because the privacy issues is a very emerging issues in the whole countries, and especially balancing the privacy and the e-medicines or telemedicines, because we right now the global have like a international instrument about the general data protection regulations, and it's basically data protection for European Union, but it's can be applied outside European Union countries. So it's have a big impact to our Indonesian's markets or business. And the things that GDPR mentions about the data protections and health data is one of the data, sensitive data that should be protected by a actor or institutions that process those data, including the private sector and also government. And I guess it's also the interesting part that legal profession take a look about how the compliance of GDPR or their business, your client's business about the health, for example, in who process health data, how the compliance of the data protection regulations, and also how the legal mechanism, legal internal regulations about the privacy issues in the private sector. Because I've have some questions from people who work in the industry, how should they comply with this? And I guess these privacy issues is very emerging issues during this pandemic. After it's, I guess it's also become the new normal, how we react with the government's activities, and and its relation to our rights, privacy rights.
Thank you. I think we have 10 to 15 minutes left. The audience can raise your hand to or just unmute your microphone and can speak freely. I think as we know, you guys coming from lawyer, some almost from lawyer, I think, and legal officer as well. But as we know, there are so many discussions has been held discussing about the disruptions in the legal industry, and now the disruptions is clearly happening. All legal industry, all sectors, including all legal sectors, has been impacted by the coronavirus, and it pushed all the legal professionals, all the lawyers, legal researchers as well, I think, and legal officers has to take rapid measures to comply with all the rapid changes that we are now experiencing. So I think I will give to the audience, if you guys want to speak something, share something, or ask to the speakers, you may have the floor. Is there any questions or someone who want to speak?
While waiting for questions, if I may add something, Chat.
Yeah.
So actually, I second Lintang's view regarding the data protection. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the current regime of our data protection regulation is very simple, as long as you obtain approval from the data owner, you can actually use the data freely. And I think there's a draft in place, yeah, for amending the data protection regulation, which will revise the current regulation to ensure that the revisions will be in line with the provisions of the GDPR, including, among other things, I think differentiating sensitive data and non-sensitive data. Yeah, Lintang.
Yeah, the current, I'm sorry to replay it. Yeah, in current regulations, we don't have any comprehensive law. So, like for example, it's on it's very sectoral regulations, and and we see that that's not something. It's not comprehensive because it's sectoral. Like for example, if we take a look to the health issues, that would be we have to take the health laws or health regulations. But when it's the data, it's about the finance or economic things, you have to take a look to the financials or economics policies, and it's I don't know in English, but ketidakpastian hukum, because it's very sectoral. We don't have any like comprehensive regulations. I guess Bang Andrew can explain from the industry perspective. So that's why the government want to unite, harmonize all the regulations that provide first the definitions of data private informations, or yeah, the definitions, because right now we have like so many definitions about the data, private data. And also the second about the what is actually it's the data protection regulation should recognize data subject or the owner of data. It's a very long discussions, and because you mentioned about the what we call it agreement, it will change this the regulation, the bill will change the system, or the I forgot the name, persetujuan, the consent of from the owner to the people who data processor of data processor and data controller. I think Bang Andre want to add some from the private perspective.
Okay, so first of all, I will just touch a little bit about privacy law here because actually this is talking about COVID-19, but I would like to share what we are doing in our company right now because there are times, maybe in like 2019, that we think that data is owned by the company, but our recent developments shows that that is not the case. The uh, we right now we are implementing clauses in the contract that we are mimicking the GDPR clauses. So we are starting to recognize who is the data controller, who is the data processor, and what can you do with the data, and how should you do it and how you shouldn't do it. So that is something that we are trying to implement in our commercial contracts right now. So we are trying to mimicking the clauses in the GDPR that we are expecting will be included in our national bill uh, ahead from the bill being enacted. So when the bill has been enacted, we already prepared for it. And it's if you, in my opinion, it's a very extensive clauses on data protection. So in my company, we are always for every partnership, for every transaction, we always ask one mandatory question: whether it involves a, a, a transmission of personal data or not. And then we will talking about the system, what you will send from the system, and what kind of information, and whether it will be classified as personal data or a sensitive personal data. Oh, well, that's it what I can share for now.
Thank you, Bang Andrew. Thank you, Lintang. I think because of the time, and you guys have given us a bigger picture on what the impacts of coronavirus in certain professions, like you guys in lawyering and in-house counsel in the company, and in an NGO like what Lintang is working on. And I think I have to end this webinar series. Thank you very much once again for Lintang, for Dita, and Bang Andrew for the precious time, 1 hour, agreeing to do these discussions this evening. I ask for your permissions to publish the record of the this discussions to our YouTube channel, so many people will reach and hear your voice. And thank you very much for you guys who are still attending until the end of these discussions. And thank you very much, because some almost my friends from S1 and S2 is coming to these discussions. You may also follow our Instagram account, and you can give also an article to be published to our magazine, and we are really happy for it. And for the next discussions, I think we will always make any discussions before we have discussions with two legal experts in hukum tata negara and hukum progresif from Bayangkara and from Airlangga. And we have also discussed with the former commissioners of Komnas HAM, Rida Saleh, about the ecocide violence and ecocides crime, I mean. And then we have also discussions, casual discussions on the COVID impact to the kelompok rentan and all several issues at hand. And we will still make further discussions, and you guys can get the informations from our Instagram, and we have also a Facebook, I think. And thank you very much once again. Hope you are in a good conditions and good health as well in this very challenging time. Keep spirit and success to you, whatever, and success for your endeavors. Thank you. You may leave the room as well.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Stay home, stay safe, and keep it low.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Chat.
Apa tuh? Eda ya?